Hey, as marketing specialists, we often get asked the question, can I scale a business with Google Ads? And what are the limitations? So, if you want to know that, you're exactly in the right place today. Let's start by addressing two important questions. We've got addressing demand, and we've got the issue of creating demand. So, creating demand is essentially unlimited, as many people as there is in your target country, as many members of the population you have, that is the limit. Whereas when it comes to existing demand, that is what people search for, what people are asking Google. There is a limitation because there's only a certain number of people who are asking that question on a daily basis. Now, I could scale that a little bit more by throwing in a few more related products or by throwing in some really popular competitor brand names so that we can intercept some traffic when people are searching for a competitor brand. But essentially, we're going to be hitting a ceiling. So this brings us to the question, what's the difference then between addressing existing demand and going for demand generation? So demand generation, the easiest way to think about that is the Super Bowl ad. You get everybody in a place, a mass audience, you show them an ad of something that they weren't searching for before, you introduce a new concept, and thereby you create demand. There's actually a Super Bowl happening every minute of the day around the world. And that Super Bowl is happening online on the Google Display Network. One of the ways that you could scale a business infinitely to as many people as there exists in a particular country or city is through targeting the Google Display Network. Now, the benefit of using the Google Display Network is that you're not going to run into limitations in the form of search demand. The only limitation would be how many millions of people and publications are available at any given point in time where an advert can be displayed. You have to keep in mind that the conversion rates between demand generation and addressing existing demand is very different because search intent, when somebody goes onto Google and they're asking a particular question, that is the highest converter of all. And that's why typically, in most cases, the cost per click for addressing that kind of existing demand is going to be much higher. Whereas when we're out there targeting people and introducing a new concept to them through display, whether they're watching a YouTube video or whether they're reading some news on a magazine and an ad is served to them, that is pretty much infinite because there's so many billions of impressions available on the web that can be targeted. So I'm going to point out here that search is a science, okay, and display is a science too. It's not a casino. So you may have cases where companies invest 100,000 per month in pay-per-click marketing, and they're turning around 500,000 in revenue from that. But you may also have cases where somebody is running into a project with 100,000 for the month, 200,000 for the month, and their sales are below 50,000 as a result. So there's a lot of calculations that's involved here. There's a lot of projections, but more than anything, there's always testing. Nothing is as surefire as we think it is because there's a lot of variables. And if you're starting with something that has not been tested through an email list or through organic search, etc., and you're testing with pay-per-click, there's typically smaller ranges that you need to run with to carry out a test, and these tests can be more efficient with search marketing than they could be with display, given the longer lead time that you have with display in a lot of industries. Now, we got to keep in mind that when it comes to demand generation, with certain things such as B2B services, the sales lead time is going to be pretty long. It can take months before people actually buy. And it can actually take months when people go through a period where they're aware of something, they haven't bought it themselves, but they're already starting to refer it because there was a really sticky story about something. On the other hand, if there are more instantaneous items that people buy on impulse, you may see a quicker spin off from doing demand generation. But in either case, it can still take long, and generally speaking, one needs to have deeper pockets when kicking off a demand generation campaign. It's not necessarily a get rich quick scheme, it's brand building, and that's pretty hard work, and it needs to have sustained budgets and good levels of repetition in order to start saturating the market and to get a space of mind with the consumer for this new brand or this new concept that is being launched. Now, as we know, when it comes to demand generation, there's not necessarily a limit. We can target a lot more people. But when it comes to search demand, what people are currently searching for, there is a limit, and that's dictated by concrete search data that we have every month where we can see how many people are asking certain questions. Now, here's the thing to remember when we're doing search demand targeting is that the greater market share you wish to take of that search demand, the higher the cost per acquisition is going to be. Now, this might sound weird to you because when we're generating demand, when we're doing the Super Bowl ads across the web, it's a different ball game. There's so many billions of views available, and whether I buy 1,000 views or 1,000,000 views, I may end up paying the same per view or per click then. But when it comes to targeting search demand, that existing demand that people are asking questions for, we have an issue of price elasticity. So the way price elasticity works is if I only go for a small number of those searches where people are asking questions, then I can get away with paying very little per click. That might be because I'm happy to sit in position number three or position number two. I'm not going for position number one, and I may get away with getting 100 customers at $3 per click. But the moment I want to say, okay, I'm going to scale this up now to 200 customers that I want to acquire in this particular manner, don't assume that for the next 100 customers you're still going to be paying $3 a click. That may well go up to $5 a click. Or if it's in a very tight market, it may shoot up to $9 per click. So the more market share we want to take within the available search demand, the higher the acquisition cost per user is going to be. And there's no way around that. The only way around it, which is some kind of a workaround, is let's say we're in a market where there's not that many competitors, there's only three competitors. We know that Google makes money from selling clicks to many different viewers for many different products. So Google is in a good position if it can show your ad, my ad, and a competitor's ad to the consumer, and the consumer goes and click on all three of those ads. So if we're going to work with that philosophy, then we're happy to say, look, we can sit in position number three. Whether you click us first or whether you click us last, that's okay. But we're going to sit there in position number three. We're going to increase our total budget of how many clicks we want to get, but our cost per click, that $3 per click, we're not going to lift that up. We're going to keep that at a maximum level. So then you might play the strategy of saying, look, I'm not going to be the top guy in position number one. I'm happy with position number three. Whatever clicks I don't get from position number three is okay with me. But whatever extra clicks we can get from position number three, we're going to make more money on that. And that is typically the strategy I would suggest if you're not trying to erect a barrier to entry for new competitors. If you simply want to cruise along and take your fair share of the market without raising the CPC levels to an unsustainable cost per click, where it's no longer worth it for us to acquire a customer. So this is a very important consideration in your pay-per-click strategy when you're going for existing search volume. So regardless of the terminologies Google may use in the Google Ads platform, you may essentially think of cost per click bidding on search demand in a couple of ways. You could think of it as skimming the market for a low cost per click. So you're basically just going to bid conservatively in this case and sit there and see whatever clicks you can get at a low cost you're happy to take. And so this kind of thing may include long tail bidding and so forth. Or you might go for maximizing market share. So, in contrast to low CPC skimming, this strategy is going to involve some aggression because you're going to increase your bids to try and dominate the search results by upping your pay per click spend. There's also something called target CPA bidding, where you're happy to bid whatever as long as you can buy a customer for a certain amount. So, in other words, if your conversions go up, then you'd be happy to bid more. So you may think of it as market penetration bidding, you could have market domination bidding, or you could have value based bidding. So value based bidding would be, you determine the maximum amount that you're willing to pay for a click that's going to be based on the projected lifetime value of a customer. So again, here you'd be able to outbid somebody else if they're selling just one product. But if you're, let's say, a marketplace and you're going to be selling loads of products for somebody to a client during their lifetime value, during the life cycle of the client, you don't really care about losing money on the first deal. So value based bidding is a way to outcompete. You could also have competitive parity bidding, and here you can match or slightly undercut the competitor if you're in a position to actually have an equal or better lifetime value. You couldn't do this if your competitors got a much higher LTV with their clients. So, lost leader bidding, this is what I would call bidding high on certain lost leader keywords just to attract potential customers to your site. Okay, and knowing that the initial CPC may result in a loss, but the goal is customer retention and customer acquisition that's going to lead to other products and upsells where you're actually going to be earning a lot more. And then, of course, you could have opportunistic bidding, and this is a flexible strategy where your bids are adjusted dynamically, and it's based on market conditions such as seasonal trends or competitor activity or shifts in consumer demand. And so this is more adaptive. And so here you're going to regularly review keyword performance and you're going to look at the competitive landscape. And if it's increasing or decreasing, you'll be responding in real time based on how the market fluctuates.